true to its Honda form. It's just bop, 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 the whole way. Hello and welcome back to another Kyle Connor YouTube channel video, this time with the Honda Accord Hybrid. And so this is interesting. I feel like we're in the 300th generation of Accord. This one's been out for a while, but it's got a minor facelift for 2021. Things like wireless CarPlay, updated front end, stuff like that. This one in particular is the Touring model, which means this is as maxed out as you can get a hybrid. There's something like 15 different Accord trim levels that you can get. The hybrid alone has like 4. But the Touring gets the big 19-inch wheels. They're on 235 section tires. These particular ones are Goodyear Eagle Touring. Really good tire. I actually know the man who's really engineered this tire. Cool dude, great driver. So, looking forward to seeing how this car drives. So, yeah, we got a 2-liter 4-cylinder engine under here with a hybrid drivetrain. Probably one of the smallest battery packs I've ever seen in a car. Let's jump inside. As always, if you're looking for a full review of the car, that's not this video. This is just me talking to you about my thoughts. Jordan, one of my colleagues, did a full review of this car for Out of Spec Reviews, and I will have that linked when that video goes live. Foot on the brake, power up, AC seats on, air conditioning on. Lovely. So you can see on the left side we have a full hybrid battery. On the right side we have a full fuel tank. So we are topped up all the way. The nice thing is, although this hybrid battery is quite small, it recaptures energy so efficiently that every time you slow down, you can just watch it gain charge. You gain 10, 20, 30% for every slowdown. The negative is on the way up the hill, I kind of ran out of power. It was just like pegged at redline the entire way up. And I was like, wow, that kind of feels abusive. But that's just, I guess, how the drivetrain tries to charge up the battery. Let's put it in drive. Let's put it in sport mode. Let's put brake hold on. Let's turn traction control off. There we go. And since we have a full battery, let's do a full launch. Because with a full battery, it's actually drives totally differently than with an empty battery. I will explain. Foot on the left brake, floor it. Build up some revs. Doesn't let you. Go. Man, hard launch, and then it just sits at red line. And it actually kind of bounces off the rev limiter. Take a listen. True to its Honda form, it's just bop, 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 the whole way. Now, it moves pretty good with all this electric assist. Look, we're already doing quite big numbers. And that is, not stellarly fast, but for a hybrid, you don't need any more. The problem is we just used almost half of our battery in that one acceleration run. By the top of this hill, I bet we'll be out completely. Let's see. So just foot down. Wow, good handling. We'll talk about that. Right now, I just want to see if we can run the hybrid battery out, because I think that's this car's weakest link. It needs to be a plug-in hybrid or have a larger capacity battery, because we're not really gaining speed right now. I mean, here we are. We don't want to be shredding on a back road, so we'll lift a little bit for this corner, even though we could go completely flat. Back to wide open throttle. And you can see now we're out of battery, and I have a noticeable power loss. So it just took a very short period of time for it to go from being plenty quick to just being totally slow. And that is actually fine. And guess what? A lot of hybrids work like this. This is not a unique problem to the Accord hybrid. I will say this is the quickest I've noticed a degradation of performance. I'm going to pull the left paddle. I get these down arrows here, so I can go from 0 or 1 down arrow to 4 down arrows. And this just increases the amount of regen off throttle. And now we're charging up the battery. You can see we've already gained one little bar here on the way down this little hill, so all is good. Yeah, so drivetrain-wise, it's a Honda. It loves to rev. It actually sounds really good on the inside, but it's not a refined experience. The CVT just pegs at the RPM, and it's actually got a lot of motor noise, and it sounds good, a lot of good induction noise. It sounds good like this. Just coming out of a corner, listening to it spin up and spin down, really love that. That noise is intoxicating, just whoop, whoop, but not the blah, 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 blah. That's very unpremium, and I feel like anyone I pass is just like, shift, dude, shift. I'm like, it's a CVT. So maybe that's the most efficient use of the drivetrain, and that's why they did that, but this thing just pegs itself at 7,000 RPM or whatever it is. So really weird and unlike any other drivetrain. A Prius kind of does the same thing, by the way. Toyota hybrids are very similar, but they are not nearly as loud or have as much hybrid, or I should say combustion engine intrusiveness into the cabin. This is a really noticeable engine sound and noise, and it's quite loud. And I would say, like, even just driving normally, this engine almost has no torque, or at least it gives me the impression. It sort of free spins up to max revs, like it's under no load, and then it loads up. Listen. Whoop! And then once it hits the max revs, then it seems to be doing all of the work. So that is interesting. I actually would love to drive the 2-liter turbo one of these. I drove the pre-facelift and was just hugely impressed with that system. In terms of efficiency in this car, though, really good. I just did a highway MPG loop and it did 48 miles to the gallon at 70 miles an hour. That is worth almost any compromise. In a car that's this luxurious, this stylish, this feature-rich, insane economy. I gotta say, that is truly impressive. So now let's talk about space feel. Well, first off, I love this steering wheel. It's a little bit thick. It feels good. Very direct steering inputs. The paddles are nice, even though they don't shift gears. I like the concept of increasing regen with paddles. I think that's awesome. I do like the hybrid drivetrain as much as, as crap as I've given it, as we full charge, completely drained, and then full charged again this system. I think it's actually fine for 99% of around town use. Is that guy driving off the road? We're just going around you, dude. Sorry. It's a passing zone. Don't freak out. Don't freak out and then come into us. But for cruising like this, nice. Now, suspension calibration is quite firm, and that could be that because this is a touring and it's got the 19-inch wheels and it's got the sporty stuff on it, but you do feel like all of the little stuff in the road. And I was really kind of not expecting that, because I remember driving a just base Accord, and I thought it was really well damped and the suspension was great. This doesn't give me that impression. This is much more sporty, much more of an aggressive setup. So if you're a true driver and you like to go around corners, well, this tire wheel combo and everything seems to be working pretty well for sure. So that is much more geared to sporty than the engine would lead you to believe. Let's try the corners. All right, throwing it in. Wow, great response on the turn in. A lot of that's actually down to that tire that I was telling you about. Really nice body control throughout. Feels super solid. Wow. So that is where this car shines, is in the corners. From a chassis perspective, it feels tight. You can tell it's front heavy. You can tell the front wheels are doing most of the work. But the way that it turns in, the way that the car responds to just that initial input for this type of sedan, again, it keeps, what am I trying to say? Competes with the Toyota Camry, just, wow. That is really impressive, just the way it darts around. Now, the suspension's soft. Once you push past that initial steering input and you're really leaning into a corner, well, there's quite a lot of compliance there, which is interesting because on the road it's not as soft as you would expect, like I was mentioning. So it's a bit of a weird suspension setup. It's firm to give you the impression that it's sporty, but when you drive it hard, it's not actually that sporty from an entire package. Certain portions of it are sporty. For example, the steering is stellar. For a front-wheel drive, family sedan, bordering luxury, beautiful interior, this has way better steering than it deserves to have. The brake pedal is good as well for being a hybrid system with blending capabilities. Look, when I touch the brakes and then get into friction, it's progressive, it's firm, and it gets the job done. And let's just stand on the brakes. Let's go around this corner and full brake test, shall we? Yeah, so just instant response, really got down. It's a heavy car. You can feel the weight when you try and stop it. It's just pushes through. So that just goes with really any modern cars these days. They are quite heavy, but very impressed with the inputs that I'm able to give the car. Its responses to my inputs are fine. And it's really just down to what am I reviewing the car as. We're on a twisty back mountain road, which is not this car's home turf. This car is much better suited for city and highway use. And driving down the highway, it's got great driver assistance. It's got Honda sensing system, so it does pretty good lane centering on the highway. I will say I have a real big issue with the lane centering, actually, which is, you know, a lot of systems will warn you if you're not touching the wheel, hey, put your hands on the wheel. This does that, but then it just shuts off. And it ping-pongs on lane departure warning forever. It doesn't ever slow the car down or give you an audible warning or freak out or try and get your attention or wake up if you have a medical emergency. It'll just ping-pong down the lanes until eventually it pops out and drives off the road. I tested this yesterday. And to me, that's unacceptable. Driver assistance systems need a driver alert and also an external alert, such as hazard lights, brake lights, and even the horn in the case of some Volkswagen Audi products. They just beep the horn on the outside to alert other people knowing that there's an emergency behind the wheel. This just goes, and that's not cool. That's unsafe. Other than that, though, the system is good. Great adaptive cruise control, stays close, really nice. Cabin noise is quite high. You hear a lot of cavity noise inside the wheel and tire. You can hear a lot of high pitch, just a hum. Just woo. What would really help this car a lot is the foam inside the tire. Honestly, would take care of probably 60% of the road noise. So if you ever have a chance to switch tires on your Accord Touring, I would recommend to get ones with foam on the inside. I was never a believer until I recently tested a tire back to back, and man, does it make a difference. So, full throttle, let's rip it. Sounds good. Man, it's got power when the hybrid battery's topped up, and you only get 1 or 2 hard accelerations, and then it dies out on you. But going down the hill, it's perfect. Up the hill, I was like out of juice the whole way. And again, we're not driving that fast. In terms of styling, this car received a slight facelift on the outside. It's got good LED headlights. Wish the sound system was better. It is, I assume, the top spec sound system, and it's just not that great. So definitely would recommend an aftermarket system. And the reason it's not that great is there's no mid-range. The treble, the highs are really loud. The subwoofer is okay, but it blows out and at 75% volume. And then there's just no mids. You don't get the vocals, really. And that's what I want to hear, and I've adjusted every little setting on this that I could, and I just was left wanting more from the sound system. So that was interesting. A whole mixed bag here with the Accord. I really think that this is, for me, more appealing than the Camry, just because of its sporting credentials. The way that this thing eats up a back road far surpasses the ability of Camry and other sort of cars in this class, Altima, that I've driven, things like that. So this is definitely the choice for the enthusiast. But is the drivetrain the choice for the enthusiast? That I'm not so sure about. Well, the economy is stellar. That 48 mpg on the highway, not even in the city, is truly impressive. Now, the Touring's actually rated, I believe, 44 city, 41 highway, and all the hybrids other than the Touring, so the lower spec ones, are 48, and I think the only change is the wheel tire combo. So I would say that the Touring wheel tire combo really affects efficiency more than almost any trim level I've ever seen, and I'm curious as to why Honda felt the need to put these wheels on this car. Probably just for press photos, so people buy the base ones. But still, impressive economy even with these wheels. I would actually get them because I just like the look and I like the response in these Goodyear Eagle Tourings. Pretty nice. Yeah, with the battery topped up, totally a great drivetrain. Just when the battery dies, which is, again, not after a long time, man, does this thing just chug along. So, good backseat space. It's a full-size sedan, really. It's got a huge trunk. It looks the part. This is the coolest piece of wood ever because it's not actually wood, which totally fooled me. You see all these grains in here? It's totally smooth to the touch. You genuinely cannot feel them. It's the coolest fake wood I've ever seen, and normally I'm all for like real natural wood, but they did an amazing job on the look and texturized look of this, but it has no feeling except gloss, so it's easy to clean and it will last a long time. Neat, very neat, and I love a silver car. Thank you for Honda for speccing press cars in silver. Cars look good in silver, I think. and definitely no exception here to the Accord Touring. And that's about all I have to say. Great car for the enthusiast, but I think most enthusiasts are going to get the 2-liter turbo. For an everyday user, the hybrid drivetrain, amazing. But don't get the Touring. Get an entry-level one that gets even better MPG and maybe loses some features, but that's okay. It's got air-conditioned seats and all this stuff. You don't need any of that. Just get an entry-level Honda Accord Touring for mid-$20,000 range. This particular one's 33, is it? Let's think about this. This one is, here's the sticker, 37,435. So about $10,000 more than your entry-level Honda Accord hybrid. And let's put it in eco mode. Actually, we'll put it in EV mode. Why not? Let's turn traction control back on and EV mode on. Won't let me go into it. Battery temperature at limit. Whoops. Got it a little toasty, I guess. So we'll let everything cool down by driving gently. Just weird thermal, and power limitations for this system. I think most people are going to be fine just with the hybrid entry-level one, or the 2-liter turbo Touring would be my recommendation, because the chassis is incredible for both. When you have a really good chassis that handles well, it doesn't need to be stiff on the street. It handles quite nicely. So naturally, you can have best of both worlds. And I would say, don't spec one like this. Spec one either comfort, highway, efficiency oriented, or sporty oriented. Unfortunately, no manual available anymore in Accord of any trim. You used to be able to get a 2-liter turbo manual, which was just the jam. So that might be the one to get. Get a used one of those. Thanks for joining me for a drive on one of my favorite roads in a really interesting car. I'm actually, so much to talk about. I expected this video to be 3 minutes long, but man, that drivetrain's got a lot going on. We overheated the battery. It's extremely efficient. It's priced well, not for this one, but for an entry-level one. And I gotta say, I am pleased driving this car. That is just a category. Sometimes we refer to it as editor's influence and out-of-spec reviews. Manimals. And it's just, does the car make you happy? Does it feel good? Is it a nice place to be? And the answer is absolutely. Really nice place to be. The touch points are great. And I actually really like this shifter and all the tech. Nice job, Honda. Really enjoy these things. Can't wait to drive more. See you on the next one.